Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. In recent years, the Qur'an, the holy book for the Muslims, has come under increased scrutiny due to the widespread of Islamophobia and the growing threat of terrorism by certain extremist groups. It is considered by many as a book of hatred, anti-feminism, or even a manual for terrorists. Some even went as far as planning to burn the book that is considered as containing the words of God by at least 1 billion people around the world. In the middle of such extensive prejudice, it is perhaps not known widely that the sacred scripture is a source of comfort and relief for the disabled community. Long before the Convention of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities was enacted, the Qur'an provided guidelines on the issue of disability. It contains teaching and wisdom about how the disabled community should live their lives and how society should view and treat those who were born a little different from them. The basic premise that the Qur'an uplifts concerning disability is that there is no such thing as an imperfect being. All humans, regardless of their physical condition, are considered the best of God's creation. As stated in the chapter of Atil, verse number 4. Those with disabilities are not considered imperfect or flawed. It asserts that everyone can reach a full measure of perfection by developing the positive assisting trait of which our individualities are composed. The concept of perfection and imperfection in the physical sense therefore have little application in the Quranic view of human lives. By extension, so too do the concepts of normalcy and abnormality. This is because, as stated in chapter Al-Hujurat, verse number 13, the noblest human beings in the eyes of God are the most deeply conscious of Him. God's measure of a human being's worth depends not on physical appearances or material belongings, but rather on spiritual maturity and manners. Furthermore, the Qur'an elevates the principle of equality and justice. It is believed that human beings are created in two parts, body and soul. Our bodies may be created differently, some with disabilities and some without, some light-skinned and some darker. However, our souls are identical. The soul has neither disability or ethnicity. Through our soul, God teaches us equality, and through our bodies, God teaches us differences so that we can respect one another. Consequently, we learn that no matter how different we are on the outside, we are on our most important component, the soul, is equally the same. Unlike views that were widespread during pre-Islamic times, whereby the disability was regarded as a form of punishment, the Qur'an views disability as a test. The purpose of this test is to prove the level of one's faith. As stated by God Almighty in chapter Al-Ankabut, verse number 2 and 3, and it is also an indication of someone's gratitude to God, as stated in chapter Al-Insan, verse number 2. These two aspects, namely faith and gratitude, reap equal rewards from God Almighty. This means that disability could be turned into a land of opportunity for someone to reap God's rewards as long as he is truly faithful that there is a wisdom behind the condition and is grateful for what God has given to him. In addition, the Qur'an asserts that every burden gives to a human being conforms to the person's ability to bear. God Almighty says, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها, that there is no burden beyond human's capability. This verse is a guarantee from God to disabled people that they do not need to be troubled by their disabilities, especially when it comes to carrying out the commandments of God. The Qur'an attempts to remove any stigma or barrier to full inclusion of disabled people. It offers relief from certain commands and requirements so as to address the difficulties that arise from specific conditions. In fact, the Qur'an speaks about giving special accommodation to the disabled community. For example, it discusses the issue of jihad, which means striving in the path of God, in which the disabled are afforded special waivers. It is said in chapter At-Tawbah, verse number 91, that these individuals are given permission to abstain from participating. The Qur'an also states that indeed blindness is not in the eyes, but it is in the heart, as stated by God in chapter Al-Hajj, verse 46. Through this verse, the Qur'an clearly reiterates that blindness from the perspective of Islam refers not to the physical eyes, but the heart. It is not concerned with an individual's physical condition, whether he or she has the ability to see or not. Rather, the most important thing is that the person has a sharp vision from his heart. He is able to distinguish between right and wrong based on careful consideration of the heart instead of the eyes. However, it is important to note that the Qur'an can be viewed from a wider perspective. Even though this verse talks specifically about blindness, it can be interpreted more widely. Through this, God actually wants human beings to know that the real disability is not in the body, but in the heart. It is not about whether or not we have physical improvements or physical impairments. Rather, it is about how much we can obey God's commandments and how will we treat those around us. What I mean here is that how well we treat those around us. Even though today people with disabilities are often seen as object of amusement, bullying, and mockery, the Qur'an clearly prohibits such behavior for any reason. It is said that making fun of other people by laughing at them or calling them by inappropriate names is the hallmark of the wrongdoers. And those who possess no faith, no feeling for humanity, as stated in chapter Al-Hujurat, verse number 11. In this verse, God also says that those who are mocked may be better than those who mock. According to the Qur'an, the quality of an individual is not measured by his or her physical condition, but by the faith and obedience to the Almighty. In this case, disabled people who do good to fellow human beings and follow God's commandments have a much better position in the eyes of God compared to those who do otherwise, even though they may be in a good physical health. The Quran related the story of the Prophet Muhammad, upon whom be peace, when one day he paid little attention to a blind man, Abdullah ibn Maktum, who came to him. Even though this could be seen as a minor act of discourtesy on the part of the Prophet, peace be upon him, towards an individual with disabilities, this caused a sharp Quranic rebuke in which the Prophet was strongly reprimanded by God in chapter Abasa, verse number 1 to 13. It is clear that the Quran does not tolerate any unpleasant treatment toward those with disability. Giving rancid face in front of them is considered to have transgressed God's reasonableness, let alone mocking or belittling them. The historian reported that Ibn Maktum later became the symbol of inclusion in the Muslim community when he was appointed as the caller for prayer and was asked to lead the city of Medina when the Prophet had to travel outside. The widespread prejudice against the Quran in our time is due largely to the ignorance of the essential values and principles contained within the Quran. This is very unfortunate, and it has been proven that the Quran has become a source of comfort to any segments of society, including individuals with disabilities. It is time now for such ignorance to be eradicated, because in truth the Quran is filled with wisdoms and insight in the humanity. I hope this can be an opening for all of us to learn more about the Quran, to understand more about the Quran, and so that we can respect one another even better. جزاكم الله خيرا. أحيل دعوانا السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.